I used to think that hard work always paid off, that if you showed up early, stayed late, and gave more than what was asked, people would notice. But after 4 years at Harlington and Pierce Consulting, I learned the hard way that effort means nothing when the wrong people are in charge. My name is Nora Weston, and for most of my career, I was the invisible engine behind the team's success, the one fixing reports at midnight, covering mistakes, and making my superiors look competent. I didn't mind it, not at first. I loved my job. I believed in what I did. But everything changed the day our new intern, Valerie Quinn, walked in. Valerie was young, sharp, and ambitious, but she didn't know half the systems I'd spent years mastering. She was friendly, almost too friendly, and she had that kind of beauty that made people underestimate her. Glossy hair, soft voice, perfect smile. Within a month, she was asking me for help every other day, and I didn't mind teaching her. She seemed grateful, eager to learn. What I didn't realize was that I wasn't training a teammate, I was training my replacement. Our manager, Damian Holt, was the kind of man who prided himself on mentorship. He liked to say he valued integrity and teamwork, but he also liked power and admiration. When Valerie joined, he found both. I noticed how he lingered at her desk longer than necessary, how their laughter carried through the glass office walls, how she suddenly got assigned to projects far above her level. I tried to ignore it. It wasn't my business, until it became my problem. 3 months later, a promotion opened up, Senior Account Coordinator. It was practically built for me. I'd been handling the responsibilities for over a year already. Everyone in the team assumed I'd get it, including me. Damian called me into his office one Friday afternoon, smiling like we were about to share good news. I sat across from him, my heart thudding with nervous excitement. "Nora," he started, steepling his fingers, "you've been an incredible asset to the team." "Thank you," I said, trying not to sound too hopeful. "That's why this is so difficult," he continued. My stomach tightened. "We've decided to give the promotion to Valerie." For a moment, I couldn't even process it. "Valerie?" He nodded, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. "She's been showing real initiative, and we think her energy is what this department needs right now." Energy. That was the word people used when they didn't want to say younger. I managed a polite smile, thanked him, and walked out of his office before my composure cracked. But as soon as I reached the elevator, my vision blurred. I'd trained her. I'd corrected her reports, explained the clients, covered her missed deadlines, and now she was my superior. That night, I went home and sat on my couch staring at the wall, replaying every interaction I'd ever had with them. The way he'd glance at her, the way she'd touch his arm when she laughed, my mind started connecting the dots. And once I did, I couldn't stop seeing it. Monday morning confirmed my suspicion. I arrived early, as always, and caught a glimpse through the glass walls of Damian's office. Valerie was inside, perched on the edge of his desk, her hand resting on his tie. When she noticed me, she jumped slightly and straightened her blouse, pretending to look at a document. Damian barely looked embarrassed, just smiled faintly and said, "Morning, Nora." I smiled back, "Morning." Something inside me hardened that day. I wasn't just angry, I felt betrayed. Not only had they disrespected my work, they'd made me a fool. I decided right then that I wasn't going to cry over this. I was going to make them regret it. But revenge, I knew, had to be done quietly. Over the next few weeks, I played the perfect employee. I congratulated Valerie on her promotion, offered to help her transition into her new responsibilities, and smiled through the humiliation of reporting to someone I'd trained. She seemed almost guilty at first, but that faded quickly. Her tone with me shifted, from grateful to superior, from friendly to dismissive. She even started taking credit for things I'd done. I let her build her illusion. Meanwhile, I started collecting information, not gossip, evidence. Harlington and Pierce used an internal messaging system tied to company emails. Most people treated it like casual chat, forgetting that everything sent from a company account technically belonged to the firm. I'd seen Damian and Valerie use it constantly. They thought they were clever, sending messages during meetings and late-night pings labeled as project updates. What they didn't know was that our IT department archived everything automatically, including deleted messages. And I happened to be friends with one of the analysts there, Matt, who owed me a favor for helping him with a report that saved his job last quarter. I didn't tell him exactly why I wanted those chat logs, just said I suspected a data breach between management and an intern, which wasn't entirely a lie. He hesitated, but eventually pulled the files for me, encrypted attachments, timestamped and labeled. When I opened them at home, my hands actually shook. The first few messages were harmless, work talk, casual banter, but as the thread went on, the tone changed. Compliments, late-night jokes, then, unmistakably, flirting. V, you make me feel special even when the office drives me crazy. D, that's because you are special. V, stop, I'm blushing. D, I'll make you blush in person tomorrow. I felt a bitter satisfaction rise in my chest. Then came the smoking gun. V, should I come by your office after hours again? D, absolutely, same time. You were amazing last night. I stared at those words, a slow, cold smile spreading across my face. They'd handed me everything I needed. Still, I didn't rush. I wanted the timing to be perfect. Harlington and Pierce was about to start its annual performance review cycle, a time when HR scrutinized every team for compliance, professionalism, and ethics. Damien was on the review committee. Ironically, I printed the key parts of their chat history, highlighting timestamps that coincided with official meetings and projects. Then I went a step further. I traced expense reports, dinner receipts labeled as client meetings on nights when no such meetings existed, hotel transactions under his business card. Every breadcrumb added up. Once I had everything, I composed an email. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. Subject: inappropriate conduct and abuse of power within the management team. The message was concise, professional, and damning. Attached were PDFs of their messages and receipts. The body simply read, "The attached materials show clear violations of company policy, including favoritism, misuse of company funds, and unethical relationships between management and subordinates. I trust HR will handle this confidentially and appropriately before it damages the firm's reputation." I sent it from a burner account I'd made the night before, routed through a VPN. Then I waited. The fallout began 3 days later. I was at my desk when HR sent out a notice summoning Damien and Valerie for an urgent review. The air in the office shifted instantly. Whispers, stares. Damien walked past me with a tight jaw, pretending everything was fine. Valerie trailed behind him, pale as paper. They were in there for 2 hours. When they came out, Valerie's eyes were red, and Damien looked like he'd swallowed a nail. He avoided everyone's gaze and stormed straight into his office. 10 minutes later, he left the building entirely. By the next morning, the company grapevine was on fire. HR had confirmed an internal investigation. Valerie had been suspended pending review. Damien was on leave. No one knew exactly what happened, but everyone had theories. And for once, I didn't correct them. Weeks passed. I went about my work, calm and composed, while chaos unfolded around me. Eventually, an email came from HR, a general statement about maintaining professional standards and reassigning leadership roles. Attached was a list of interim promotions. My name was there, Senior Account Coordinator. When I saw it, I didn't smile right away. I just leaned back in my chair and exhaled, a quiet satisfaction flooding through me. Later that day, I went to the break room for coffee. Valerie was there, clearing out her locker. She looked up when she saw me, eyes hollow. "You knew, didn't you?" she whispered. I took a slow sip. Knew what? She swallowed hard, lips trembling. That this would blow up, that I'd lose everything. I set my cup down. "You didn't lose everything, Valerie. You gave it away." She blinked, tears forming. "He said he loved me." I looked at her then, really looked. She wasn't the enemy I'd imagined. She was naive, manipulated, convinced that her worth depended on his attention. I almost pitied her. Almost. "I hope you learn from it," I said softly. "But next time, don't climb over someone else to get ahead." She didn't reply, just nodded weakly and walked out, leaving behind a perfume that smelled faintly like regret. As for Damien, he didn't come back. Word spread that HR had forwarded the investigation to legal due to expense fraud. I never saw him again, though I heard through contacts he'd moved to another city, struggling to rebuild his career. I should have felt triumphant, and in a way, I did. But mostly, I felt calm, like balance had been restored. Justice didn't always need fireworks. Sometimes it was just quiet truth finding its way through the cracks. A month later, during a company town hall, our director praised the resilience and professionalism of the team during recent transitions. When my name was mentioned as one of the employees who kept things afloat, I caught a few knowing glances from colleagues who suspected I'd had a hand in what happened. I didn't confirm or deny anything. Some victories are meant to be silent. That evening, as I packed up to leave, Matt from IT stopped by my desk. "Hey," he said with a grin. "Funny how HR suddenly got access to those chat logs, huh?" I smiled faintly. "Yeah, must have been some coincidence." He chuckled. "Whatever it was, the office is a lot quieter now." When he walked away, I sat for a moment, letting the silence settle around me. My computer screen reflected my face, calm, composed, unreadable. People often say revenge is dangerous, that it poisons you. Maybe they're right, but I've learned something else. Sometimes, revenge isn't about destruction. It's about exposure. When you shine light on the rot, it shrivels, and once it's gone, everything grows better. The night I sent that email, I wasn't just taking revenge on Damien and Valerie. I was reclaiming my voice in a place that had tried to silence it. Now, when I walk through those glass corridors, I no longer feel invisible. People see me. They greet me by name. They ask for my input. And every time I pass the corner office that used to be his, I remember how it felt to be overlooked and how I turned that feeling into power. Because in the end, justice isn't handed to you. You have to build it. One quiet, calculated move at a time. You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.